In this video, we're going to look at pressure. Pressure is a fundamental concept in physics and can be defined as the amount of force exerted on a given area. On the screen now you can see the equation we use to calculate pressure, where pressure is equal to the force normal to a surface, remember that normal means at a right angle or perpendicular, divided by the area of that surface. This equation can be simplified into the simple equation we can see below, where pressure P is equal to force capital F over surface area A. Remember that pressure is measured in pascals, which are equivalent to newtons per metre squared. Force is measured in newtons, and surface area or area is measured in metres squared. In simpler terms, pressure is a measure of how much force is distributed over a certain area. For example, if you were to push your finger against a table with a certain force, the pressure you exerted is the amount of force that you've applied through your finger divided by the area of contact between your finger and the table. Over the next few slides, we want to look at how to use this equation to calculate pressure. Also, we're going to look at how to calculate force and area. We're now going to look at a worked example on how to calculate pressure. Please can you work through this example on a piece of paper or using the resources provided to you by your teacher. Okay, so the first step is to highlight what we know in the question. So you can see that we've got a force here of 1.2 kilonewtons. So I'm just going to put this at the top. F equals 1.2 kilonewtons. Now I should be thinking that kilo means that I need to times that by 1,000. So that's equal to 1.2 times 1,000, which will equal 1,200 newtons. The next one is to highlight what else I know in this question. So I'm going to come along here and I'm going to highlight the area, which is 9 metres squared. So I'm going to put that A equals 9 metres squared. I now want to write down the equation that is, if you remember, pressure, which is lowercase p, is equal to force over area, F over capital A. I then put the numbers in that I've got from my highlighting in the question. So I get 1,200 divided by 9. If we put that into our calculator, we get an answer that is equal to 133.33 and so on, recurring. So I'm just going to round that up to 133. And my units here are pascals because it's in newtons per metre squared. So I just want to run through and show you where you get the marks here. I'm going to put that into a green pen so you can green pen your work. The first mark is for converting the units and getting 1,200 newtons for your force. The second mark is for this part here, where I've substituted the numbers into the equation, 1,200 over 9. The next two marks are for getting 133, or an answer that rounds to that value, and then I get a mark for my unit as well. So can you give yourself a score out of 4, please, for that question? On screen now are 3 calculations so that you can practice calculating pressure. I'd like you to work through the 3 calculations, showing your working and getting the correct answer, and then I'm going to go through the answers with you afterwards. So what I'd like you to do is to work through those now by pausing the video, and when you finish, unpause the video and I can go through the answers with you. So can you please pause the video now? Okay, I hope you've had long enough to do them. I hope you got an okay with those questions there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through these questions with you so you can see how to answer them. If you've not quite finished, remember to pause the video and complete all the questions. But if you have finished, I'm going to start running through the answers with you now. So the first step, as always, is highlight what we know. So we've got a force of 20 newtons. I'm going to put that up here. Force equals 20 newtons. I don't need to convert it this time. And then we've also got that my area equals 2 metres squared. What I then do is I write out the equation. So pressure is equal to force over area. I'm going to put the numbers in. So pressure this time is equal to 20 over 2. Now, it's your choice. You can either go for a calculator here and see what 20 divided by 2 is, or you could just know that from your mental maths, and you can see that the pressure is going to equal 10. And remember, because we've got it in newtons per metre squared, that will be in 10 pascals. Marking points here are 1 mark for substituting the numbers into the equation correctly, 1 mark for the correct answer, and 1 mark for your unit. So can you give yourself a mark out of 3 for that question, please? Okay, moving on to question 2. What is the pressure if a force of 120 newtons, this case? So we're going to write down what we know. Force equals 120. Okay, our area is here, which is equal to 0.22. Metres squared. I actually need to go back and put newton on the end of my force, don't I? Nothing again to convert, so this time what we're going to do is just put those numbers into the calculator. F equals force over area. Okay, that's going to equal 120 over 0.22. So my pressure is going to equal, again, you can put that into your calculator to get the correct answer. I get 545.45 recurring. So I'm just going to round that to 545 and put that as pascals. So here your marking points are as follows. You get 1 mark for substituting the numbers in, 1 mark for getting 545 or an answer that rounds to that value, and 1 mark for your units. So you can give yourself a score out of 3 again, please, for that question there. Okay, so finally we're going to go on to question 3. Again, same prep method. So force is equal to 50 newtons this time. Our surface area, A, is equal to 5 times 10 to negative 3 meters squared. I was going to go through and put those numbers into the equation. So our pressure is equal to force over area, which gets us 50 over 5 times 10 to negative 3. And we need to put those numbers into our calculator. This will check to see that you understand standard form. So 5 times 10 to the negative 3 needs to go in there. And I get coming out the answer to be 10. We shouldn't do that. So quite very well. 10,000 pascals or 10 kilopascals. It's your choice which way you write that. Running through the answers again, you get 1 mark for putting your numbers in here. 1 mark for the correct answer of 10,000 pascals or 10 kilopascals, and 1 mark for the correct unit. So you can use yourself a score out of 3 there, please. So overall, you should have a score out of 9 for that slide. And we're going to move on in a few moments' time to look at how to rearrange the equation to calculate force and area. So please just mark your work there. So we'll now look at another worked example here. This time we're going to have to rearrange the equation to find force. I'm going to go through the steps with you again just to show you how this is done. So in this case, we're going to read through the question and see what we know. So last time we were using red for our area. So you can see that we've got surface area here is 1.5 times 10 to the negative 5 meters squared. So you can write this at the top. That A is equal to 1.5 times 10 to the negative 5 meters squared. In science, can just use standard form. I don't need to convert that at all. I've written that down. Next thing, I'm going to look for my pressure. So you can see that pressure is equal to 20 kilopascals. 20 kPa. Remember that I need to change that then into pascals by timesing by 1,000. So I'm going to times that by 1,000 and get 20,000 pascals. Then my next step is to write out what the equation is. So I get pressure is my force over area. I'm going to put the numbers in this time. So I get 20,000 here for my pressure equals my force, I don't know that yet at the moment, over 1.5 times 10 to negative 5. So I've got a divide on the right hand side here. So I need to take this divide over. I'm going to do that by timesing through. So the next line of my equation will be that I've got 20,000 multiplied by 1.5 times 10 to negative 5 equals F. And then I'm going to put that into my calculator to find what F is equal to. So F would equal, and if I put that into my calculator, I'll get an answer of equal to 0.3 newtons. So 0.3 newtons being the answer there. What I'm just going to do now is I'm going to put on the screen an image of my calculator just to show you how I put the numbers in. So when I put the numbers into my calculator, you can see this is what my text will look like on the screen here. Just to show you, the button that I use is this one at the bottom here. This times 10 to the x. So when I type into my calculator to do the 1.5 times 10 to the negative 5, I put in 1.5, then I press that button, and the button that I've highlighted there, times 10 to the x. and then I put in the -5, and that gives me the correct answer of 0.3 newtons. Running through here to show you how to mark it, I'll do that in green again. So in this case, we got 1 mark for conversion of kilopascals into pascals. We get 1 mark for substituting the equation into the numbers into the equation there. We then get another mark for the correct rearrangement, another mark for 0.3 being the right answer, and a final mark for getting newtons as our units. You can see this question would be scored out of 5 marks. Now, it's not always scored out of 5 marks. It would only be out of 5 if it was early on in the paper. Sometimes they expect you to do some of this for less marks, maybe 3 or 2. But on the whole, we can see there's 5 different points here, especially if it was early on the higher paper or on the foundation paper where you would achieve the marks for this question. Okay, so we're going to move on now to do some more practice. So on screen now are some practice questions for you to be able to calculate force using the pressure equation. I like to work through these, showing you working, and getting the correct answers, and then afterwards I'm going to go through those questions with you. So I'd like you to pause the video now, please, while you complete these questions. So pause the video until they're completed. Thank you. So I hope you got on okay. I hope you found that relatively straightforward. What we're going to do now is we're going to quickly run through the questions with you, and I'm going to show you how you get the correct answers. So the first question here, again, let's go through the same process that we always do. So pressure is 2,000 pascals. I'm just going to put it up here for room, so 2,000 PA. And my area in this case, for this question here, is the surface area is 0.1 meters squared. You can see that here. So my A equals 0.1 meters squared. What I need to do now is I need to write out the equation. I'm hoping that you're getting the hang of this. So pressure is equal to force over area. Okay, putting the numbers in is the next step. So I get 2,000, sorry, this time 2,000 is equal to my force over 0.1. Rearranging then, I get 2,000. Remember that I've got to divide on this side here. Divide there. So I'm going to have to take it to the other side and I'm going to have to times through. So we get 2,000 times 0.1 equals F. And my force then is equal to 200 newtons. Remember, you can always put that in the calculator if you need to. Going through the mark schemes for this, we get a mark for the correct substitution, a mark for the correct rearrangement, a mark for the final answer, and a mark for the units. You can use yourself a score out of 4, please. Score out of 4. Okay, let's run through question 2 then, please. So in this case, we're going to go through this and let's highlight what we know again. So we've got a surface area here of 9 meters squared. I'm just going to put this on this side actually. So A equals 9 meters squared. We then have a pressure of 10 kilopascals. Pressure equals 10 kPa. Remember, you should hopefully get used to this now. If I've got kilo, I need to times by 1,000, which means that is going to equal 10,000 pascals. Okay. Let me substitute the numbers into the equation. So I'm going to start off with that pressure is equal to force over area. Putting the numbers in, I get 10,000 equals F over 9. Rearranging then, I'm just going to go up here for this bit. Remember, I've got to divide on this side, so I'm going to have to take it through the times to the other. I get 10,000 multiplied by 9 equals my force, which means that force should equal 90,000. So 90,000 newtons. Okay, running through the marks for this question. So we've got a conversion this time. Tick there. We get a mark for substituting the numbers incorrectly, a mark for the arrangement, a mark for the answer, and a mark for the unit. So can you give yourself a score for that question out of 5, please? So score out of 5. So we're now moving on to the last question on this section, and let's just run through this best as we can. So here we've got an area of 0.001 meters squared. From there then, we're going to go over here to look at the pressure, which is 0.5 kilopascals. So we've got 0.5 kilopascals. You know that I'm going to have to change this into pascals by times it through by 1,000, and 0.5 times 1,000 is equal to 500 pascals. Now I'm going to run through and put the numbers in. So first of all, I'll write the equation. Pressure is force over area. I then put my numbers into that equation. So you get 500 is equal into force divided by 0.001. I need to times 0.001 through. So you get 500 times 0.001 equals F. So force is equals, and now I can put those numbers into a calculator. I get a correct answer of 0.5 newtons. So running through the marks for this question, you get a mark for the correct conversion. So I've done that in a highlighter rather than the actual pen, not to worry. So you get a mark for the conversion there, 500 pascals. A mark for substituting them into the equation correctly. A mark for the correct answer, so the correct rearrangement, so 500 times 0.001. A mark for your correct answer of 0.5, and a mark for the correct unit of newtons. So that's another score out of 5. So can you give yourself a score for that slide out of 14 there, please? So we're now going to look at a work example in order to calculate area from the pressure equation. As always, we start in the same way. We're going to highlight what we know in the question. So here I've got the pressure is 4 millipascals. I'm going to put this up here. Pressure equals 4 millipascals. Now I need to convert that into pascals. And remember that the milli I need to divide by 1,000. So I get 4 over 1,000 is going to put that into pascals for me. And I'm going to leave that in standard form as 4 times 10 to the negative 3 pascals. Okay, you could write that as 0.004, but I'm going to leave it in standard form because that's what my calculator brought it out to be. The next one is to look at our force, which I'm going to just do it in blue. So force is 8 millinewtons. It's going to follow the same pattern. So I'm going to write here that force is equal to 8 mil. Sorry, it's fit on the screen very well, is it? The force is equal to 8 millinewtons. I'm going to divide 8 by 1,000 to get it into newtons. And my force, again, is going to equal 8. Not having much luck at drawing my 8s. Times 10 to the negative 3 newtons. Okay, so now I want to put the numbers into the equation. So first of all, I'm going to write out the equation. So pressure is force over area. I'm going to put these values in. So this time I get 4 times 10 to the negative 3 is equal to 8 times 10 to the negative 3 over my area. Now I need to rearrange this to get them on the same size one another, so I need to swap these round. You might be able to do that in one step. I'm going to show you in 2 for this time only, and then in the future calculation I'm going to swap them over. So what I need to do, because I've got to divide on this side, you can see divide by 8. I need to times through by 8 to take it to the other side. So I would get here that 4 times 10 to the negative 3 multiplied by a equals 8 times 10 to the negative 3. Now, because I've got the times here, I want to move that to the other side, so I'm going to have to divide by the 4 times 10 to the negative 3. So I'm going to take this over here and do 8 times 10 to the negative 3 over 4 times 10 to the negative 3. So that means that rearrange that, I get 8 equals 8 times 10 to the negative 3 over 4 times 10 to the minus 3. Now you can always, as I've pointed out here, you can miss this step out if you're feeling confident, and you can just swap the a and the 4 times 10 to the minus 3 around. If I put that into my calculator, which I'm going to do now, you'll get the correct answer. Remember here, for your calculator, you want to use the times 10 to the X button, or sometimes it's an EXP button on some calculators. That's the value you want to use to put the standard form in. Alternatively, you might not have done it in standard form, so you've done 0.008 divided by 0.004. Either way, putting those two values in, you're going to come out with an answer of 2 meters squared. Okay, let's run through how you get the marks here. So we probably get a mark for the conversions of the units. That's 2 marks for converting the units. 1 mark for putting the numbers into the equation. 1 mark for the correct rearrangement. 1 mark for the correct answer. And 1 mark for the correct unit. So if you see that, that will give you up to 6 marks, depending again on where it comes on the paper. Obviously, if it's the higher end, so grade 8 or 9 question, you will get much fewer than 6 marks. But those are the 6 steps we need to include. And if it was early in the higher paper or late or on the foundation paper at all, you will get this many marks for this question. Okay, so we're going to move on for you to have some practice at calculating area from the pressure equation now. So on screen now are 3 practice questions to allow you to calculate area from the pressure equation. I'd like you to work through these, showing all your working, and then once you've finished working through them, you can restart the video and I will go through the answers with you. So can you pause the video now, please, while you answer the questions? So pause the video now. Okay, so hopefully that's long enough for you to complete those questions. I'm going to run through these with you now. Okay, so the first question I'm going to run through, we do the same thing that we've done before, and we highlight what we know in the question. So starting off with the first one, I've got a pressure of 150 pascals, so I'm going to put that here, P equals 150 PA, and I get my force being here 2 kilonewtons. Now we need to times by 1,000, don't we? So 2 times 1,000 gives me 2,000 newtons. Okay, next step, I'm going to put these into the equation. Pressure equals force over area. So this time I get 150 equals 2,000 over A. Rearranging, I will do it all the way through actually. I get 150 times A equals 2,000. A then equals 2,000 over 150. And I can put that into calculator to get the correct answer. Putting that into my calculator, I get 13.3 recurring, so I'm just going to round that up to 13, and that will be meters squared. So looking at how we get the answer, the marks for this question, we get a mark for this conversion here at the top. It's 1 mark. We get a mark for the correct substitution, a mark here for the correct rearrangement, which would be A is 2,000 over 150, a mark for the correct answer, and a mark for unit. So can you give us a score out of 5 for that question, please? Mark out of 5. Looking at question 2 then, same process. We've got here a force is 400 newtons, so F equals 400 newtons. We've got a pressure is 10 kilopascals, so I'm going to have to change that by times it by 1,000, so I get 10,000 pascals. Okay, I'm going to then put my numbers into the equation. So pressure equals force over area. So I would get 10,000 equals 400 over A. First step, remember, I'm going to have to take the A to the other side. So I get A times 10,000 equals 400. Rearranging them, I get that A is equal to 400 over 10,000. I'm going to put that into my calculator, and the answer I get there is 0.04 meters squared. So 0.04 meters squared. That's not looking the best. Let me just try and make that neater for you. So I get 0.04 meters squared. So now should we run through and mark our work so we can see what we get the marks for. We get 1 mark for correctly converting kilopascals into pascals, so 10,000 pascals. We then get a mark for substituting the numbers in, so 10,000 equaling 400 over A is the second mark. The correct rearrangement to get A equals 400 over 10,000 is the third mark. The fourth mark is for 0.04. The fifth mark is for unit. Can you give yourself a score out of 5 for that question there, please? So we're going to look at the final question this time. So the first one, to realise we've got 14 kilopascals, which is our pressure. So P is going to be equal to 14 times 1,000 to get 14,000 pascals. I've then got my force, which is 7 kilonewtons. So that'll be 7,000 newtons. Again, I've converted that by times by 1,000. And then let's go through and put the numbers in. So here, pressure equals force over area. I've got less space this time, so I will just do the rearrangement in one step. So I'm going to put the numbers in. I get 14,000 equals 7,000 over A. So now I'm going to rearrange that equation. I'm going to do it in one step this time. So I'm going to say that A is equal to, I've got my 7,000 at the top, over 14,000, and that will give me an answer of 0.5 meters squared. Again, let's run through and give the marks to the question. So we get 1 mark for the correct conversion here, and another mark for the correct conversion there. So getting 14,000 and 7,000. Put the numbers in, and we get 14,000 equals 7,000 over 8. That will be the third mark. Fourth mark for the correct rearrangement is A, so it is 7,000 over 14,000. Fifth mark being 0.5, the correct answer. And finally, getting meters squared as the correct unit will be 6 marks. You can give yourself a score out of 6, please. And then overall for this slide, you want to give yourself a score out of 16. Okay, so that runs us to the end of this video. I hope you found this useful in using the pressure equation. And I'd like to thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you and goodbye.